Many years ago, early 2000s, I was a frequent guest of our next guest, who had a midday show alongside Kimberly Guilfoyle Newsom. That's what she went by back then. They did the midday show on Court TV. I was also a frequent guest of Catherine Cryer at 5 o'clock. Long story short, as of May 8th of this year, Court TV is back. It's a great, great channel. Joe Tacopina, Arthur Aidala, all those guys always on. Mickey Sherman. And Vinnie Politan is back for a second run after a very successful stint over a decade ago. And he's remarking and talking about the biggest cases in the country. And he's back for a second time here on the Bernie and Sid show since the relaunch. So, Vin, once again, congratulations, pal.
Thanks so much, Sid. Great to talk with you, man.
Great to have you back here, too. Let's start, before we get to Harvey Weinstein, the story that's got me going as a sports guy. Kellen Winslow Jr., his father, of course, the Hall of Fame tight end from the Chargers. Kellen was a superstar, University of Miami, like his dad, drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and early on, all kinds of issues. Motorcycle accident, screaming profanities, comparing football to war, and early on, people didn't like this kid. Then he disappeared. Now you find out that 3 women alleged that he raped them. He's exposing himself to a 59-year-old woman, another 77-year-old woman. This is much like Darren Sharper. This is ugly. What's going on with Kellen Winslow Jr.?
Oh, this is ugly. This is here's the problem, though, for the prosecution, okay? And, you talk about 5 accusers. You don't think they would have problems. But each one of them, there are issues with the cases. The problem for Kellen Winslow is when you have 5 different women coming in accusing him of things, it's kind of difficult for a jury to look the other way. So at this point, the one thing that is really bizarre about all of it, 4 out of the 5 accusers in the case are significantly older than Winslow Jr. He's like in his mid-30s, right? Earned about $40 million while playing football. These women are in their mid-50s to their 70s, which makes it even more bizarre, this alleged behavior.
Yeah, and the one last thing, and Bernie will move on to Harvey Weinstein. I did see that he's an avid bike rider, and he uses this app. It's called Strava, I guess. And this thing actually keeps count of how many miles you ride on your bicycle every single day and keeps count of your location. So it does place him at the spot where he supposedly exposed himself in front of the 59-year-old Vietnamese woman.
Yeah, now, that was one of the problems prosecutors had, was she could not identify him because she didn't really look at him in the face. But because of this app, it used to be, Bernie, what you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Now it's what you wear can and will be used against you in the court of law with all of these fitness apps that people have. Great location devices, and yesterday put him at the scene of the exposure.
Busted. I love it. I love the fact that he's busted, not what he's done. Vinnie Politan, lead anchor of Court TV. Vinnie, speaking of Harvey Weinstein, he just settled a lawsuit, $44 million deal. The average woman gets about $65,000. It was hundreds of women. It was a class action lawsuit. The lawyers, they get $65,000 apiece. The lawyers get $14 million to divvy up among themselves, about 6 lawyers, something like that. Anyway, my question is this. Harvey Weinstein's trial has been postponed now till September. This has been going on for years and years. Justice delayed used to be called justice denied. What's going on with Harvey Weinstein?
All right, so Harvey Weinstein's got civil issues, right? And they're trying to settle all that stuff in the bankruptcy court. And Harvey's not really paying money. It's the insurance company that's paying all this money. On the other hand, he's facing criminal charges in New York. So the civil case really does not impact the criminal case. It can't be used against him as an admission, and the accusers in the criminal case different than from the civil case. So at the end of the day, the reason we're waiting till September for the criminal case is there were some complications that came up in terms of who may or may not be allowed to testify against Harvey Weinstein, people who aren't actually victims in the criminal case, but also are alleging similar conduct may be permitted to testify. There's some pretrial hearings about that. And his superstar attorney, Jose Baez, I believe, had a little bit of a conflict as well because of another case he's working.
Well, he has put together, you talk about the dream team for O.J. Simpson. Jose Baez has put together quite a dream team of his own with our good friend Arthur Aidala and Arthur's wife. This is not just Jose Baez now. It's about 5 or 6 of them that are working with Harvey Weinstein every single day, giving me at least a reason to believe he's going to get off here. I do know this, the latest with that story, Vin, has two of the actresses, Ashley Judd and Rose McGowan, who were very, very boisterous at the very beginning. They've come out and said, listen, we were not part of this $44 million civil lawsuit. We don't care about the money. We will continue to go after this guy until this thing goes to trial. So the big stars in Hollywood still want a piece of Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, you talk about that settlement. The money was going to defend board members from his company that is bankrupt because they're being sued as well. But absolutely. And everyone has their right to either opt in, opt out of a class action, which is what this civil case is. But these actors, they want their day in court. They want their story heard. And it really is what they want is they want him to pay. They want him to literally pay, and they feel like this whole thing, you know, he's not reaching into his pocket for a dime out of all this, so they feel like it would fully punish him for the behavior that they allege against him.
You know, Vinny, there's this movement here in New York specifically to eliminate cash bail for pretty much indigent defendants. Now, Harvey Weinstein is the perfect example of why maybe that's justified, because he's on tape actually attempting a sexual assault against a woman who he had sexually assaulted once before, and yet he's out in these famous restaurants having a good time, stuffing his fat, creepy face. But they went to the other extreme here in New York. De Blasio is Mayor de Blasio. He wants these teenagers to be let out with no cash bail, no matter what. The charge could be armed robbery, assault, burglary. It doesn't matter what their record is. Just let them out. And the New York State Senate is going to codify this policy statewide in New York State starting January 1st. I mean, is this a prescription for disaster in this city, or what do you think?
Well, there's a couple things when it comes to our bail system, right? Two things. One side will argue all of these people have been accused, and our system of justice are presumed innocent, so we should not lock people up who are presumed to be innocent before they have their day in court. But sometimes that day in court takes some time, and sometimes these people are a risk of flight, meaning they're not going to show up to their next court date. Or they're a danger, a potential danger to the society and the community based upon the nature of the charges and their criminal history, which is why it should be much more involved than simply just let them out. No, let's evaluate each person, but let's be fair. You know, if someone is loitering and they can't make a $50 a bail, should we lock them up for a month? Maybe not. But if someone's accused of a violent crime and there's a chance that they may not show back up to court, maybe there is a number that you have to put on it to either entice him to return or to keep him locked up until it's time for the whole case to be adjudicated. But there's definitely a balance somewhere in the middle, Sid, that I think is the right way to do it.
30 seconds to go. Are you going to be knee-deep in Michael Avenatti today?
No, today we're still in Winslow world with Kellen Winslow, because today another one of his accusers is going to testify, and this is the only one who's not an older woman.
Oh, wow.
This is a woman who alleges that she was raped by Winslow when he was 19.
Oh,
he was at the U down in Miami.
Right.
Came back home to San Diego, and she was 17. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, going to be fascinating television. It always is. Court TV with Vinnie Politan. As always, you're a tremendous guest. Thank you so much, and we'll be watching you later on today, Vin. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thanks so much, Sid.
All right, take care. Vin Politan. We'll take a short break. We got the Blitz coming your way. Mets win in Los Angeles. The Yankees, not so much in the Bronx.